This is session 5 of your traffic and SEO training. In this session, we're going to talk about social bookmarking for more traffic and Web 2.0 properties. The first part talking about Web 2.0 properties.
And let's just jump right into this. And there's actually one other little thing that I'm going to be showing you guys here that I didn't put on the intro slide, and that is how to check your website statistics. I thought this was a good part to kind of teach you how to do this and how to read your web stats, because at this point you could have and should have done some things where you can start seeing some results with your website traffic. So I'm going to give you guys the tools you can use to kind of check your web stats. So the first thing you want to do is here's a list of some programs you can use to check your website stats. The first one is called AW Stats, and Webalizer is another one, and then Google Analytics. And the good news for you is that all of these programs are actually free to use. So it doesn't cost you anything to use these programs. And what's so great about them, AW Stats and Webalizer actually come installed with your hosting account about 90% of the time if you're using a hosting company that's using cPanel, which in most cases your website host will, and that is if your website's hosted with Google, or excuse me, I'm sorry, not Google, with HostGator or Bluehost or something like IX Web Hosting. A lot of the major ones use cPanel. GoDaddy does not, by the way. That's one complaint I have with GoDaddy, is that with their hosting, they do make you pay a monthly fee if you want it. So for people on GoDaddy, I'd recommend you use Google Analytics. And if you are using, a site or a website hosting company that has cPanel, which has AW Stats and Webalizer, then I would still look at using Google Analytics, because it's kind of nice to be able to track your website statistics all around. So at least that way you can kind of get a rough idea as to all the different options you have for traffic. So and basically the core thing here is the web host offering cPanel give you stat tracking software that you need, and that's AW Stats and Webalizer. And some of the important stats that you want to look for are the unique visitors and the length of time they stay on your website. And those are some important things to look at, among other things. Those are the core things to look at. You will see typically with website things, people will talk about hits. Oh, your website hits are up, or website hits. And hits are really actually kind of meaningless when it comes to tracking website stats. And that's why the tool that GoDaddy gives you to track stats is pretty much worthless, unless they've changed it since I last saw it in there. But they have a tool that tells you, basically how many hits you're getting. Well, basically what they count a hit as is let's say you have a squeeze or a website that has 5 images on it. Well, every time that page loads, they're going to count that as like 5 or 6 times, however many images you have. Every time it loads and calls a file, which when your websites load in the background, they're pulling up images and such. So every time it hits your server, that counts as a hit. And so hits are really inaccurate, because if you have a site with 100 images on it, little images or something, then there's 100 hits every time somebody pulls up the site. So hits are really pretty much inaccurate. The best things you want to be looking for are visitors and unique visitors. And unique visitors is most important, just because a visitor, that could be somebody that comes to your site multiple times. So that's one person from the same household, or basically the same household in that basically it comes from the same household. So it's pretty much like one customer to your website. And also it's like if you go to your website, you probably hit your website every single day. And so that would count as a visit to your website, but it's not going to count as a unique visitor unless you've completely, cleared your cookies, which a lot of people don't. So, so that's something to keep in mind. So you want to make sure you're differentiating between unique visitors and regular visitors. And length of time on site, that's kind of an important stat to look at overall. And the main reason is just because the longer people stay on your site, the better results you're going to tend to receive. Now, in all examples, this isn't 100% true accurate, just because if you're using like a landing page, for example, like a squeeze page, where you have an opt-in box where people grab their name and email, you don't really want them to be on that page for 5 minutes, because they're going to be thinking too long about filling out the form. But 90% of the time with your website, or you've got pages you're trying to sell people, you've got a sales page, a sales video, you might have materials about your company, your services, your products. You want people to stay, a good amount of time. And online, you usually have about 10 seconds to grab people's attention, So if you're seeing in your website stats that your average visitors are staying about a minute or two on your site, that's actually really good, because that means that gives them time to actually make what you would say almost like an accurate decision about whether to buy or not from your company, and that really will help you, because what you want to watch for is people getting to your site and all of a sudden the stats showing you that within 30 seconds they're leaving your site or something, because it takes longer than 30 seconds to read a sales page. So you want to keep that in mind. You also want to try to see which pages they're leaving your website from as well. So I'm going to show you how to use some of these tools. And another thing you can do is look up the various keyword phrases that people are finding you for. So these website tracking tools will actually tell you that certain, people are finding you for different keyword phrases. So, it'll actually give you some ideas of some additional keyword phrases that you might consider targeting, because these are keywords that by accident you might be ranking for, by accident you're getting traffic from. And sometimes it's amazing because there are people that will browse through to page 6 and 16, and so you might see, wow, I'm getting a lot of visitors for this certain phrase. I bet, and I'm only on page 6 or something. So you think, okay, well, if I started optimizing a page and I created a blog post or an article around this keyword phrase, then that might rank pretty well for me. So you can go through your stats and start thinking of new pages to rank your site for. So that's how you can use and check your website stats. So here's a little bit about AW Stats and Webalizer. You want to make sure that you have selected to view stats for them in your cPanel. And so I'm going to show you how to set that up. And these are provided by your website hosting companies that offer cPanel. And AW Stats and Webalizer will vary quite a bit from each other, so keep that in mind as far as the numbers go. So typically the numbers are going to be, almost, one might say that you're getting 1,000 visitors a month, and the other one might say you're getting 2,000 a month. Like, it's that far off. But I like to use them as a gauge. It's kind of a trend almost to kind of see, okay, how's my traffic doing, or is the traffic increasing? Is it decreasing? What kind of things are causing it? That's kind of the thing you want to look for with these tracking programs. So let's look at an example of each of these programs. So I'm going to log into a cPanel here really quick. So let me pull that up here. Okay, so I'm logging in here, and I'm going to make the screen live here in just a moment for everybody. Okay, so what you guys should see on my screen right now is me logging into my control panel. So you'll see here my website. I'm hosted with Bluehost. It's a great hosting company, and if any of you guys want to sign up with them, let me know. They have excellent deals. I've had no issues at all as far as bandwidth goes. I have a lot of domains with them. I just have a lot of things going on with Bluehost. I have all my downloads for all the different products and services I have. A lot of these are all hosted here with Bluehost, so I have a lot of content here, and the only cost is $7.95 a month. So I do like Bluehost a ton. So they are very, very good. So if you're looking for a web host, they might be one to consider. But they do have cPanel. HostGator accounts do. Most hosting companies have cPanel. So what you're going to do here is scroll on down to where it says log files, and you're going to just simply choose whichever one you want to use. So whether it's Webalizer or AW Stats. But first, when you first set it up, especially if you're with Bluehost, HostGator does it, might do it slightly different. But you want to make sure that you selected choose log programs. And you want to go down here and you want to find different, websites that, like, here's a site of mine. And notice all these sites are going to have .countesspr.com because that's the main domain on my account. So don't worry about that though. If you see that in your account, that's all it is, just a little subdomain. How they set it up structurally wise, but it's the same thing as having your core domain. And that's why you just want to promote your core domain name. But you want to make sure that you have checked marked here inside, the box that tells you to choose your log program. So notice I just checked there because I want some of these websites, show up. I want to see what kind of traffic they are getting. So I can just click on a couple of those, and next thing we do is come right over here, and you would just select. So just come right over here, and then you're going to choose Save Changes. And if it's the first time you've done this, first time that you've saved these changes on the domain that you want to start tracking, so that might be something you want to do tonight. You're not going to be able to see the web stats for probably at least 48 to 72 hours. But if if it's your default domain, which most cases, you might only have one domain, then it's going to automatically already have your first one there. Now keep in mind that what I'm showing you here is basically on the majority of website hosting companies. So if you do end up having issues with this, send me a support ticket. One of the best things you can do is actually call up your hosting company or send them a support ticket, because they will be able to help you find the best web tracking program that they offer. But most your website hosting companies will provide cPanel, and if they do, they typically have these things installed. So here's Webalizer. It's the first one we're going to take a look at, and I'm just going to grab one of these sites here, one of the mini sites that I have, and we're going to just pull up the web stats here for you guys to take a look at. So inside Webalizer, I don't like Webalizer because it's not as nice to look at. I don't think. I think it kind of gives you a kind of a nasty view. But basically here with Webalizer is you can actually just click right here. Like these are stats. It looks like dating back. These are kind of old stats, but most of the time they're pretty updated. But notice, let's just look at May right here. And you'll notice here it'll tell you total hits, which again, that's useless. It tells me there's 106,000 hits. There was actually only, according to them, there was about 7,000 total visits of actual people that went to the site. Total pages. Now, page views is telling you how many pages people have viewed on your site. So if your website has maybe it's 10 page, you have a 10-page website, and the average person maybe looks at 3 pages on your site. So that each time they look at a new page, that's a page view. So that's a pretty important stat as well to look at. Now you're going to notice here when I get on to the next one, this one can be kind of hard to look at, but this one kind of tells you, the amount of website stats per day. So every single day it tells you how many hits, how much file usage. Just means how much, basically, how many different files they pulled from and all this stuff, like your images. So that these two you don't need to worry about, hits and files. Pages tells you how many pages it looked at. The yellow is the, like the unique visitors, and then you've got kilobytes of information that they've looked at. And it even gives you a breakdown of hourly usage, and this is all a free tool, so it kind of tells you, basically, what your traffic was looking like throughout the days, what kind of things were happening. So it tells you, on like, let's see here, and it's all on Army time here. So at 1500 hours, which would be like 3 o'clock Eastern, let's say, I was getting a lot of traffic at 1400 hours here, whatever, which is about 2 o'clock. That's when it looks like most of my traffic and things are taking place, just because. And you can track hits. Like, I don't record the numbers, but you can track hits to see how your web stats are doing. So basically gives you an idea of, okay, at this hour my site's most active. You can use that site as you will. Here is some other things you can track. The exit pages. This will tell you basically what pages that are the pages that people are leaving you from the most. So I see here that, like, my home page, and if it's just a / and that's all, that's actually just your home page. So that's all they're tracking there. But this will tell you, okay, a lot of people are leaving me from this page. Maybe I better do something about that. Here's a different way. Sites that are referring to here. You're going to see a lot of things that might look kind of funky in here, so I don't really worry about that. Those are sites that just different people's IP addresses and things like that. Here's the 250 of 381 referring sites. A lot of these would be referring URLs within your site, because they're finding things within your site. You see here Google search. You see some other stats show up. MSN search, Ask search, some different things. Kind of gives you a rough idea there. Top 20 search strings. So this tells me anaerobic threshold. That's a big keyword phrase. Weight loss articles is a big keyword phrase. Stomach bulge. How to lose 10 pounds in a month. This is a weight loss site. Weight loss encouragement. So these are all keyword phrases that people are finding my site for. So if I go back and I were to type in these phrases and say, that's interesting, I'm getting a lot of traffic for this phrase, but my site's not ranked very well for it. Well, that means that I would go back and create a page around that keyword phrase. I would do some marketing, video marketing, some Web 2.0 properties, all the stuff I'm going to teach you here, just because that's going to really kind of give you kickstart in the right direction, because there's actually traffic for these keyword phrases. And if you're not ranked well, just imagine until you're ranked well what would happen. So that's how you can use that tool. This tool tells you, what kind of browser most of the people are using, or down here it shows you. This one actually shows you countries. So you can look at countries. And so this is just your basic overview of Webalizer. It gives you just some basic stats. Most of your data is right here, and then you could narrow it down further, by your daily usage and how that went. So that is Webalizer and how you use that program. So let's go back here and go back to your cPanel, and you're going to be looking right in the same area for where you found Webalizer. You're going to be looking for AW stats. And we're going to kind of see, hopefully, how different some of these web stats actually are. So there is AW stats, and let's just click on this. And let's see here. Let's pull down to, we were looking at May 2008, so let's look at that for this site. And notice here, they're telling me that I actually had almost 4,000 unique visitors. The other one was telling me I had almost 7,000 some. So you see how different they are. And so basically, one of the best things you can do if you really feel like you want to get a number, average the two together, might be the best bet for you. I really couldn't tell you exactly which one's more accurate. I know that question's probably going through your mind. Honestly, the main thing you want to be doing is tracking, are my web stats increasing? You want to see some increases going on. Now, this site's showing a little decline, so I need to do actually a lot of work on this. I haven't done any work on it since back in May, and then that's when things were high. So this tells you basically your unique visitors. This one's a lot easier to read. I personally prefer looking at Webalizer stats or AW stats, how they lay it out, because it's just so much cleaner and it's a little easier to follow. This tells you number of visitors by day. So each day of that month, there are 200 visitors on this day, on down. So it tells you the average visitors per day. They just have it laid out really, really clear, and they give you more data, I feel like, than the other ones. This one also tells you, on each day what kind of your average visitors were, and this one kind of shows me that it's pretty average throughout the week, and it tends to tail off on the weekend, which is pretty normal. Hours of the day, just like the other one, tells you what kind of your traffic looks like. It's fairly stable throughout the day, mostly in the midday. US is most of my traffic. That's not a shock. So this just kind of takes you down through there. This tells you visits duration. Notice this stat here, 0 to 30 seconds. So this would be a site that I would be like, wow, I need to improve that, because there is people leaving the site fast. So I need to do something that would get them to stay longer. And I do need to work on a redesign for the site, because I probably could tell you exactly why they're leaving. So this is a good indicator as to why people, what you need to be looking for is, okay, a lot of my visitors are leaving quickly. And so again, this is one of those free tools that cPanel offers. This tells you, what's kind of interesting is some of these URLs actually match up almost identical to what the other one was as far as URLs that get the most traffic. One tool I really like to see, though, is the referring sites. That's a great tool. They tell you kind of where your traffic's going from, and then referring search engines kind of tells you where your search engine traffic's going from. Most of my search engine traffic is Google by about 91%. So if you can see that, how big Google is in the scheme of things. Yahoo's not even on the map, even though I rank for that. In Yahoo, Google is just dominating for this site. So, you definitely want to focus most of your attention on Google anyways. Search key phrases will tell you some different keywords that people are finding you for. So here's kind of some interesting: unbalanced diet, anaerobic threshold, weight loss articles, lose 10 pounds in 1 month. So these are kind of similar articles to what people were finding me before. So there's a whole slew of potential keyword phrases, and this number tells you how many people found you each and every month. Or basically each and every month, how many people came to your site for this keyword. So 215 people came to my site for the word unbalanced diet. So that would tell me, okay, maybe I should focus some things on that core keyword phrase. So these tools are active. If you have questions using them, let me know. Your web host might be the best as far as helping you making sure that it's set up on your server. So it's AW Stats and Webalizer, and those are the best ones that you can go ahead and use. So I'm going to go ahead and log out of my cPanel here, and we're going to jump on over to Google Analytics, and I'm going to show you guys how to set up a Google Analytics account. So it's just google.com/analytics. But let's, in the meantime, jump over to the presentation here. So we're back here in the presentation here, and this is the URL again, google.com/analytics. And this is a free website statistic tracking program that you can use with any site. I personally recommend that you use this in conjunction with your other tracking programs that your hosting company provides. Especially if you're on GoDaddy, I would highly recommend you use Google Analytics because there's no need to pay for their upgrade. The stats will vary from the other programs as well, so keep that in mind. So, just be prepared for that your stats will be quite a bit different. All you do with this is you simply add a line of code to your website, and I'll show you how to get that code. And it's a very clean and user-friendly interface for you, so it's very simple to use. So let me show you an example of this, of Google Analytics. Okay, so when you first want to set up your Google Analytics account, I'm going to show you how to set up your account, and then we'll get on with our presentation here. So first thing you want to do is choose Access Analytics, and you just want to log in with your Google account if you already have one. So I'm just going to sign in here. And what you're going to do inside here is you're going to go ahead and set up a new account. So for this example, we want to set up a new page. So I'm going to go right over here to where it says My Analytics Accounts. This account I just deleted. It was a test blog I had. So you can just go right over here down the right side and choose Create New Account. When you first log in, it's going to ask you to create your new account. So you want to go right here and choose Sign Up for Google Analytics. And website's URL, very self-explanatory, www.yourwebsite.com. I'm going to use the Tulsa chiropractor site as the example here. Account name, I just leave it at the domain name. Time zone, you can set it to where you are located. I'm on Central Time. You can set it to whatever time zone you happen to be on, or whichever one works best. Most of the time it might be Eastern, Central, Pacific, whatever works best for you, so you kind of know when the day's ending on these statistical reports. So that's kind of a cool feature. This is, again, basic information: your last name, your first name, and your phone number. And then please select the country. That's self-explanatory. And then go ahead and choose Create Account. I've gone through their terms of service before, but when you're first there, you might want to read through that. Choose Yes, I agree, and then select Create New Account. And once you've created your new account, what you're going to get is this really nasty looking code. So before you panic and throw your arms up in the air, it's really actually very basic to install this. So what you need to do is just click your mouse one time on there. So you just click your mouse one time, right click, and choose Copy. So click your mouse one time, right click, and choose Copy. So again, I clicked my mouse once, I right clicked, and I did Copy. And now you're going to go right back over here to wherever your website is hosted. So in this example, I've got this website hosted with WordPress. So I'm going to go right on over to WordPress, and I'm just going to simply log into WordPress here. And this would be slightly different if your website, is just a static HTML site, which a lot of sites are, and that's okay if they are. So if you have just a static type HTML website, then that's how you're going to, you're going to access it with like Microsoft Expressions Web Design or Dreamweaver or something of that nature. But it's going to be the same thing. You're going to do all this stuff that I'm showing you here inside what's called the code view, inside the code view. WordPress makes it very, very convenient. They do have a plugin for it, but I personally like to just do it manually because I've had issues with getting their plugin to go in correctly. So I just do it the old-fashioned way, and it's very easy. So all you do is come right down here and you choose Appearance and you choose Editor. And what you're going to look for is footer. And when you're actually doing this in your own HTML code, you're going to be looking for the footer of the code. So you're going to be looking for like the code that comes up right before the body tag ends. So you notice here where the body tag is actually going to be ending. Notice that. And what you're going to do here is you want to just install your Google Analytics code right in here. So you want to highlight right here. So highlight your Google Analytics. So I've already got it kind of installed here, but let's just show you the example here. You can just highlight it and copy and paste it. So you're just going to copy and paste it directly before the caret to the left. and the body tag. So just copy and paste it right in there and then choose update file. And that's how you do it on WordPress. It's going to be the exact same thing. You're going to go into the code view of your static HTML site. So it's going to be the code view of your web editor. Or you could also outsource this or submit a support ticket if you are running into problems. But you're going to just go right until you see the body. There's always going to be a closed body tag, or in most there should be, on your website. And right before it, you're going to paste in your Google Analytics. And then you're going to just save that file and re-upload it to your server. Now, if you're using a static HTML site, and you happen to have, when I say static HTML site, I mean like a site that is not built on WordPress, so it's a site you manually go in and edit, which is fine. Those sites do great. So I'm not knocking those sites or anything. I'm just showing you as an example with WordPress. But if you are using a site like that and you don't have what's called an includes file, and if you have to ask what that is, chances are you don't have one. So just assume you don't have it. And what you're going to have to do is go to all the pages of your website, and you're going to have to manually copy and paste in the Google Analytics code. And the reason you're doing that is because Google Analytics will read all the pages on your site that code is installed on, and you want them to be able to read that kind of information. So, the only pages you may not have it on there would be like your download pages. You don't really need to be tracking stats there, but your sales page, your article pages, and all that. Now, if you're using WordPress, you just do it one time and it automatically goes in the footer because they have what's called the includes file. So that HTML code that I just did is included on every single page. So without getting further into HTML things, but that's how you go ahead and do Google Analytics. So it's very simple. And once you've installed the code, you just choose Finish. And it's going to load the page here. And basically you just come right over here to where it says status, and the tracking's unknown, and then I would check back and give it a few minutes and then check and make sure that the web stat is uploaded correctly. So now you can go ahead and log out of your Google Analytics account, and let's just go right back over here to the presentation. So we're going to now start picking right back up here and talk about social bookmarking, a little bit about social bookmarking and what it is and how it works for you. So the first thing we're going to do is talk a little bit about social bookmarking, then I'll show you some examples. So basically, social bookmarking is a method for you to share, store, and organize websites, stories, or things online that you appreciate. This would also include things like articles, videos, on video hosting sites, whatever it is. It's a method for you to share it. It's a method for people. It's a social thing where people can share things. Well, in this example, we're using these social bookmarking sites as a marketing tool as well. So this is how you use them. So it's more of a way to share your favorite websites with the world, which in most cases is going to be your own sites, your own articles, and things like that, typically. Social bookmarking websites get a lot of traffic, so that's why they're great to use, because they are, pretty high authority websites. Most of them are. They get a lot of traffic, so they're good to use that way. And submitting to these websites helps you build backlinks and exposure for your own website. And even if it doesn't give you a direct backlink, which Dig doesn't give you a direct backlink like it used to, but what it does is it gives you exposure. It gives you more exposure. And what I found with Dig and some of these other sites is if you use your core keyword phrases when submitting to them, most of the time your site could actually start ranking high in the search engines for the particular keyword phrases that you're trying to rank for. So that actual page on Dig, because when you dig something or you socially bookmark something, most of the time they create a separate page for that particular bookmarking action that you just did. So what that means is that they are automatically creating new pages. Like some of these sites have literally millions of new pages because they automatically generate a new page as you do your dig on it. And what happens is that these pages will oftentimes show up in the search results. So it's kind of like what we talked about with the article marketing and how you can leverage that with your keywords. Same thing with the press release marketing. And now we're talking about social bookmarking, and later on in this presentation we'll talk about Web 2.0 properties. So all these things are geared towards not only getting your site ranked, but also helping you index new content, but also help additional places for additional exposure, because it's all about getting more exposure. If if you only have your website, if you're only relying on just getting SEO done on just your website, then there's only one really main area where people can find you, and that's through Google and hopefully just to your website. Well, it'd be nice if you could have multiple avenues where people can funnel through to your website, and that's really the goal of social bookmarking, along with helping to mass promote your new content as you add it. So here's some social bookmarking tips. You want to bookmark both your home page and your internal pages as well. You will also bookmark your blog page and other Web 2.0 properties like Squidoo pages or online videos. And so those would be things like you create an online video, which we'll cover next week or next lesson. And in that lesson, after you've created your video, you would go back and bookmark that video, or you would bookmark the Squidoo page, which I'm going to show you how to make here in a bit. Or maybe it's your own website, or it's your own blog, or whatever it is. It's your squeeze page, whatever it might be. You can bookmark that. You want to use your keyword phrases as the title for your bookmark. And as you'll see in a moment, when you do a bookmark, they will ask for your core keyword phrases. So you want to keep that in mind. You might consider setting up several social bookmarking profiles as well with each website. So basically, you might consider setting up several bookmarking profiles. So that means there's literally hundreds of these sites, but there's a core 30 to 50 that are really good to submit to. So one thing you want to do is you want to consider setting up several social bookmarking profiles. So that means you have several accounts created for each one of these sites, and you want to just use like a spreadsheet to kind of keep track of the different logins for each and every one. And inside your hosting company, you can actually create multiple